Well, today's event is very important from the point of view of just bringing together all our councillors here in the north. We have 138 currently. We have 40% of our councillors this time in this mandate are actually new councillors. This is the first time they've been elected. So it's very important that we bring together councillors, not only that have been around for years like myself, but those new councillors so that they can collectively learn from each other and their expertise and gather their experiences from others in moving forward. Because times are changing. Specifically, we're looking down the road now at the review of public administration, which is going to see much larger councils, much additional functions, responsibilities, and with that comes responsibilities on the shoulders of the elected representative too. So we want to make sure that our councillors are best placed going forward, that they are fully equipped with the knowledge within the party policy, the development of that policy. Today here is one way that they can actually feed into developing policy as we go forward. Our party would be very positive in trying to promote the role of women within the elected politics here in the north. But in the past, women have felt marginalised, that they've been put into places in councils and haven't been given that backup and support necessary. So here today, not only for women but for males as well, it's to ensure that they're all part of a team. We are a hugely strong team, the second largest party in local government within the north, but it's also very importantly to looking at how we can move forward on a cross-border basis, because community planning, for example, we see great opportunities within the community. Planning function is going to come to councils. How councils on both sides of the border can actually work together more easily, constructively, and that will obviously fulfil our All-Ireland agenda.
Pathways to Poverty, a lot of waffle and rehash of what was already announced over the last year, and even longer. Some of it's Fianna Fáil material from way back, and there's no substance to it. There's no new money, no new jobs, no investment in education, no investment in training, no new opportunities on CE. All there seems to be is a big stick to beat those people with if they can't find work. There is no work out there, and that's the big elephant in the room. We need jobs before we start changing and punishing people who are unemployed.
If you were in Minister Burton's position today, what would you have been announcing?
Well, I would have been announcing increased CE places. I would have been in an investment in third level education so that there'd be more places available beyond what is already there. I would have been ensuring that jobs, an investment in jobs. I think it's key. We can go round and round in circles, but unless the jobs are there, people are going to be dependent on social welfare for a long time to come.
It has to be recognised that there was great expectation that this project would have not only been well underway at this point in time, but a handful of years ago one would have expected it would be in place, serving the children of Ireland, and there is great disappointment right across all political opinion, in my view, irrespective of what concerns any and perhaps all of us had in relation to the choices and the ultimate choice in terms of the Mater Hospital site. Those concerned paled into insignificance when the need was taken into account. We need a new National Children's Hospital, a new National Paediatric site, and all reservations aside, that was the real goal. And it's a huge disappointment, and we have to see it in the context of the revelations only in the past number of days regarding the terrible situation that frontline service providers are coping with at each of the three existing sites in Temple Street, Crumlin and indeed at Tala. Certainly in the first two, they're dealing with a hugely difficult situation in relation to the emergency departments. We have children lying on inappropriate trolleys in emergency departments for up to 12 hours and indeed in some instances up to 24 hours. Now, it's already a very traumatic experience for parents, to be there with their children, but to actually find themselves there for a whole day without actually getting access. And I think Professor O'Sullivan's commentary from Crumlin Hospital, that in his experience we have children with infectious diseases, not being placed in isolation wards, but being in open general facilities within the hospital site. I mean, that is not only absolutely unacceptable for the families concerned, but for all families, for all children, and that's something that the Minister cannot ignore. I have called on Minister James Riley today at the Health and Children Committee meeting to immediately, recognising that it's going to take some time now before we get a new proposal back on track, that he immediately lifts the embargo on recruitment, that he recognises Professor O'Sullivan's arguments in support of additional beds and the resources necessary to staff them in order to relieve this intolerable situation at our children's hospital sites. And I would hope that voices right across the political spectrum would join with me in urging the Minister to do so, and to do so immediately.
Well, for the benefit of those on my right, I want to welcome Taoiseach the announcement of jobs in Dundalk today. Sin go mai, right. Anyway, and to continue, I also want to bring to their attention that less than 7% of households liable for the household charge have actually paid this tax, and we're already halfway to the government's 31st of March deadline. And I think, if I understand properly, that the government plan was to use €160 million funds generated from this tax for local councils to pay for their local services. And Taoiseach, that clearly isn't going to happen. Agus níl sé chomh ar cóide timpeall an Stáit ná orthú siúd atá gceannaimh iarracht ar billa léithúil a héag. So sílam gur dhearna sibse man cóg. It's low and middle income earners who are bearing the brunt of austerity, whether it's people struggling with mortgages, the increases in VAT, increases in excise, increases in motor tax, universal social charge. These are all taxes which are hitting the poorest people the hardest. So Taoiseach, I would like to ask you to accept that this unfair tax, it's a flat tax, it's destined to fall, and to start looking ahead and working on to get ahead of the curve on this issue. I'd like to suggest that you axe this tax and instead introduce, for example, a cap on wages in the public sector at 100,000, as Sinn Fein proposed in our pre-budget submission. So, Taoiseach, will you accept that on this one you've got it wrong, and will you drop this unfair tax?
Thank you, Taoiseach.
Now, I accept that a flat tax is not the way forward here, and that's why this is but a temporary measure, in that the Minister has asked for an expert report here in respect of the process of best practice, whether it be residential property or valuation on the site. And when that comes back, obviously government will consider that range of options and decide what is equitable and what is payable. Because clearly there are differences in the scale of houses and in the location and all of that. This is a charge of €100, €2 per week. This is temporary, and obviously that money, as you know, is used for the usual services of lighting and footpaths and services to people like libraries and so on. So, you know, when you say repeatedly that you are the one party on the entire island of Ireland, perhaps you might indicate to me how it is that your own members are quite willing to accept a charge of £1,259 sterling in Northern Ireland, and you complain bitterly about the €2 levy charge here per week.
Well, Taoiseach,
Gerry Adams.
I'm always bemused sometimes by your answers. And it's because of the way you string them together. First of all, this is a flat tax. I'm sure you know that. Flat taxes are unfair. The second thing is that less than 7% of the households who are liable for it have paid. So, you know, you've a month to try and get this to some sense. Now, these are people who can't pay. It isn't that, that they have the money, that they have two houses, that they have all of it. They can't pay. So, I've asked you, I invited you, and you avoided the question once again, to accept that this is a mistake and to find some other way of raising this money. And I made a suggestion to you. And of course you ignored the suggestion. Now many people are asking, how come that the government can find money to increase the pay of special advisors? How come you pay attendance money to so-called super junior ministers, 17,000 to attend cabinet meetings when it should be a privilege to serve on a cabinet? So, Taoiseach, are you seriously saying that at the end of this process that tens of thousands of citizens are going to be hauled before the courts for a charge which they can't pay, and yet not one banker has ever so far faced due process? Taoiseach, I put the question to you again. Accept that this was a mistake and change it, please.
I was hoping that I'd be getting up today to discuss and to praise the Minister for the change in the DEIS schools, but it's very hard to do that when you see the double-edged way that has been done. This decision has actually hit a double whammy on the rural schools, because not only is it favourable to the urban schools, and it's obvious that the Minister has rolled over to the urban lobby within the Labour Party on this one, but it's actually put an extra burden on all the rural schools who have been hit already by the cutbacks in teachers, because it's increased the capitation fees on all those schools. And I'm sick to the back teeth of going to public meetings with government representatives in tears at the cutbacks that are being implemented by Ruairi Quinn, coming in here voting for those cutbacks. And now we see that this double whammy has been put on the rural schools. Why has the Minister not taken in the rural DEIS schools in this decision? Why are we seeing more teachers going into the urban DEIS schools, which they need and should never have been cut back, and they're still being cut back in rural areas? Why has he not turned back on the 1 to 4 teacher schools in the rural areas? Why has he decreased the capitation grant? We want the Minister in here, not the Minister of State. I'm calling for an amendment to the order of business, that we ask Ruairi Quinn to come in here today, because it's obvious that he doesn't understand the implications on rural Ireland of the decisions he is taking. We want the organ grinder in here on this occasion, because this is a devastating announcement by the Minister. People in rural Ireland, the teachers' organisations, the schools and the parents are incensed this morning. Some of the backbenchers say they're incensed. You haven't been listening to them. You haven't been on the phone to them. It's an absolute disgrace. That Minister Quinn come in. Why is he hiding? Why is he not being able to talk to people? Why is he coming in by press release? It's about time he came in and explained it, because we had a full debate on the implications instead of pandering to the lobbying of the Labour urbanites.
Labour is opposed to short-termist privatisation of key state assets. Labour is committed to the concept of public enterprise and is determined to ensure that semi-state companies play a full role in the recovery of the Irish economy. Now, I'm glad that, Tanaiste, that your backbenchers recognise those quotes, because they are, of course, from your election manifesto. They do form the basis upon which you got your electoral mandate almost 1 year ago. And yet, not quite a year since the election, 2 Labour Party ministers preside over the sell-off of key elements of Ireland's energy companies, possibly also of Caoimhghin, and the remaining state stake in Aer Lingus. Now, your record over the past year has really been quite deplorable. You've cut teachers from schools, nurses from hospitals, you've cut those on social welfare, cut CE schemes, and now you turn your gaze to the family silver. It truly is a sad day for the Irish people and a tragedy for the Labour Party. Those are the words, Tanaiste, of Jack O'Connor, President of SIPTU, and indeed one of your own, reflecting, I believe, the disappointment of very many people who voted for the Labour Party at the last election.
Question, please.
So can you tell us, Tanaiste, why it is that the Labour Party proposes this state sell-off? Tell us why successful self-financing state companies such as these, which are such a positive for the economy, are to be disposed with, and how it is that you could ever claim that infrastructure relating to energy in particular is anything but strategic in nature, necessary and a vital lever for the state and government in the economic recovery that all of us wish to see.
Thank you.
Fracking or hydraulic fracturing is very much a topic of conversation and a lot of concern, both especially in North Leitrim and Fermanagh, but also here in Leinster House. Last Monday I arranged a meeting with a local anti-fracking group who did have an expert, a scientist over with them, and who in fact worked with a gas company in Canada and is now taking a lawsuit against a gas company because of damage that has been done to her property in Canada. And she outlined her extensive experience of the damage that has been done by this technology in the United States, in Canada and in other places throughout the world. And what she has done, I think, is very much confirmed the fears that we already had from looking at the evidence worldwide that this is dangerous technology, it does poison the environment, it does damage people and animals, and it cannot be regarded in any way as sustainable technology.
What he's really going to do is going to put one child against another. This is a disaster in relation to his increase in the per capita increase per school, and it's going to impact hugely on rural and small schools that are already reeling under the difficulties at the moment.